Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. So, we're going to unpack a narrative today that is honestly just as incredibly comforting as it is deeply relatable. We're looking at a beautifully structured Ghibli style slice of life story. But hey, don't let that cozy aesthetic fool you. What we're actually looking at here is a universal microhero's journey. It's essentially a masterclass in storytelling that takes us through the very real, visceral experience of academic burnout, performance anxiety, and the beautiful resilience it takes to overcome all of that. We're going to break down exactly how this narrative uses small, everyday moments to build a really powerful story of emotional recovery.
Why can't I remember this question? Boom. Instantly we are hooked, right? I mean, we've all been anchored in this exact high-stakes moment of pure panic. You know the feeling. You're sitting in a quiet room, the clock is ticking, you absolutely know you've looked at the material, but your mind just completely blanks. It is terrifying. By starting our analysis at this specific point of crisis, the source material immediately grounds us in the protagonist's anxiety. It forces us to ask, how on earth did we get here? And more importantly, how do we get out?
Okay, let's dive into this. Act 1, the weight of academic pressure, the anatomy of a stressful morning.
So, before we even set foot in the classroom, the narrative masterfully sets up this foundation for failure. Notice how we're visually mapping the escalating stress of the morning here? It doesn't just start at the test, you know? It actually kicks off with waking up past 8 a.m. There's this immediate rush. A family member is telling them to eat quickly before the food gets cold, wishing them good luck. But the protagonist, they're rushing through breakfast with this heavy, lingering doubt. This timeline brilliantly illustrates that a failed test rarely happens just in the testing room. It's almost always the culmination of a chaotic, unstructured morning where you are already mentally on the back foot. By the time they hit the test and blank on a known question, the anxiety has already peaked. And that leads us directly into this super painful moment of self-awareness. To be honest, I didn't study that well. Wow. You see, this isn't just about forgetting an answer anymore. It's the heavy emotional toll of realizing your preparation just wasn't enough, and finally admitting it to yourself. The narrative completely strips away any excuses here. The protagonist owns their lack of preparation, and that's exactly what makes the subsequent emotional crash and the tears that follow when they're asked to hand in their paper feel so completely earned and just heartbreakingly authentic. Moving on to Act 2, finding strength in support, the power of community and comfort. Now, a story about failure is incredibly isolating, right? But a real comeback, that requires external intervention, and this brilliantly illustrates that pivot. On one side, you've got the protagonist's deep internal despair. They're caught crying, feeling the absolute full weight of their failure. But look at the external encouragement crashing right into that despair. A friend gently teases them, but immediately follows up with, "We still have 2 more months to practice. Let's do our best together." And then they go home to their grandmother, who simply says, "Next time you can try harder, sweetheart." There is no punishment here. There is literally only forward-looking optimism. It shows us that when our internal voice is breaking us down, we desperately rely on the external voices of our community to build us back up. So the absolutely crucial point here is how care is practically delivered in this narrative, and it's delivered through action. Take a look at these points. We're talking about a warm breakfast offered even when everyone is rushing. It's a friend's tangible offer to practice together, removing that awful isolation of studying alone. It's coming home starving and being met with a grandmother's comforting, delicious post-test meal. And of course, it's that unconditional advice. Listen, these aren't grand, sweeping gestures. They are small, consistent acts of care that provide the emotional reset the student desperately needs: food, company, and grace. That, right there, is the formula for building resilience. Which brings us to Act 3, the turnaround and triumph, navigating the comeback. All right, with that emotional reset firmly in place, the energy completely shifts. Let's map out how this builds into a cycle of success, because this is literally the logical map of a comeback. Step 1, accept support. You absolutely cannot skip this step. Taking in the encouragement from the grandma and the friend fuels the entire next phase. Step 2, study hard. The narrative explicitly tells us, yeah, we studied hard. We definitely did. They put in the invisible hours, which leads inevitably to Step 3, acing the next test. By structuring the narrative this way, the source material proves that triumph isn't accidental. It's a step-by-step process that begins with community and ends with hard work. And then the payoff, this glorious moment. I think I actually nailed it. Let's celebrate. I mean, you can practically feel the immense relief radiating from this moment, can't you? This isn't even just about getting an A. It's about the shared joy between friends who put in the work together. It's the definitive proof within the story that sunshine does indeed follow the rain.
The anxiety we felt at the start of our explainer has been completely neutralized by effort and support. Finally, Act 4, a serendipitous conclusion, a magical final encounter. So after that massive emotional peak, the narrative does something incredibly charming. It kind of lowers the pacing, takes a step back from the intense world of academic pressure entirely, and caps off with this completely unexpected interaction. A stranger approaches the protagonist and says, "Excuse me, you dropped this rabbit keychain. I found this. It belongs to you, right?" The protagonist had literally been looking everywhere for it. This isn't about grades or studying anymore. It's a moment of pure serendipity. It acts as the perfect, heartwarming capstone to a triumphant day, sort of suggesting that when you push through the hard times and really do your best, the universe sometimes hands you a little bit of magic in return.
Which brings us to the very last line of the source material, and honestly, the final thought I want to leave you with today. The protagonist looks at the stranger who just returned their keychain and asks, "Wait, have we met somewhere before?" It's such a brilliant cliffhanger that just leaves us totally captivated. It shifts our focus from the internal struggle of passing a test to the external, invisible connections we make every single day. Who are the strangers moving through our lives? Who's going to be the next person to offer us a moment of support?